Hello everyone, welcome to the scanning section of this course. So in the scanning section, we're going to be covering scanning machines, looking for open ports, and eventually looking for vulnerabilities on those open ports. The tool we're going to use the most in this section is going to be Nmap. We are going to cover also scanning with Metasploit and scanning with a vulnerability scanner, such as Nessus or OpenVAS. But you're not allowed to use a vulnerability scanner on the OSCP exam. So really we're going to cover it just for the real world value of it, because you are going to use it in the real world. The only reason the OSCP exam doesn't allow it is because they want you to prove that you can use something other than an automatic tool to scan a machine and find vulnerabilities. They want you to be able to prove it yourself. So we're going to avoid vulnerability scanners for that reason. For Metasploit, we can only use it once on the exam, so we're going to save it. We don't want to use it for scanning. So really we're going to stick with Nmap. That's the best tool throughout the course, honestly. So in this lesson, I wanted to cover TCP versus UDP. Just as a quick overview, this should be something that you're familiar with already. I just kind of wanted to touch on it again before we get into it with Nmap. So TCP and UDP are the two types of ports that we're going to be scanning with Nmap. And to cover the differences, TCP is a connection-oriented port. It's mainly used for applications that require high reliability, such as HTTP, FTP, Telnet. And it's established using a three-way handshake. So when we say it's connection-oriented, and there's a three-way handshake, what we're saying is that you're going to send out to a machine, you're going to send out a SYN packet. And if it has a port open, what's going to come back to you is going to be a SYN packet with an ACK added onto it. So ACK stands for acknowledge. And you're going to send back to it acknowledge as well. And that establishes the connection, and that is your three-way handshake. So I'd like to show you an example of that. So if you want to follow along, you can. I'm going to go into my Kali box. What I want to do is open up Wireshark. So Wireshark, if you have any networking background, is a tool you should be familiar with. If not, it's a packet capturing tool. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to set up capture on my ETH0. And I'm going to let that run in the background. What I want to do is I want to use Netcat, which is a tool that we're going to cover heavily in this course. The tool is going to allow us to attempt to establish a connection to an open port. So I already know that I have a specific port open on one of my machines. So I'm going to go ahead and try to establish to that now. Okay, so I just sent the command to this machine here to open this port. I am connected now on that open port. If we go back and look at Wireshark, I'm going to stop the connection here. You can see that I sent a TCP packet here with a SYN request looking for that open port. So I sent out a SYN packet. I got back from that machine a SYN ACK, and then I sent back an ACK packet and acknowledged it. So now we have a connection, and that is a three-way handshake. So I'm going to go ahead and Control C out of this. And if we go back and discuss UDP really quick. So UDP is the opposite. UDP is going to be connectionless. And really it's suited for applications that need fast connection. It's actually faster than TCP because it doesn't require connection. So some of those are DNS, DHCP, SNMP. A lot of video games run on UDP. And because it's connectionless, there is no handshake. So it's important to remember UDP because a lot of times with Nmap we get caught up on TCP scans and looking for for TCP ports and vulnerabilities, but you're going to run into some occasions where UDP has the vulnerability on one of your boxes. So don't forget about UDP, super important. We're going to cover in the Nmap section how to scan it thoroughly. Another thing to cover too with UDP is it's kind of hard to scan. So you're going to encounter some false positives and false negatives, which we'll kind of touch base on a little bit as well. But just know that there's going to be times where a machine's not showing you an open UDP port, and it might be there. For whatever reason, a firewall might be blocking it, or just the scan's not responding. So UDP ports are a little tricky. You are going to find most of your vulnerabilities on the TCP side, but please do not forget about scanning UDP, because it would be a mistake if you did not. So that's it for this lesson. Really fast, just wanted to cover the basic overview of TCP versus UDP. So in the next lesson, we're going to cover Nmap, and we're going to kind of touch base on these again and just build on the blocks that we've just established. So until next time, I am Heath Adams, and I thank you for joining me.